Sustainability is the megatrend of our time. But with it grows not only hope, but also uncertainty.
It's extremely difficult to identify sustainability accurately because we often fall for the obvious signals.
The signals that are promised especially by labels. This is why new approaches and solutions are needed to spark a profound change in values. We have not merely promised record-breaking recycling for the 4 most common types of plastic packaging, but we have actually already succeeded in implementing it. And with this, Werner Mertz is making a clear statement against a disturbing trend in the market.
Many of the topics are more in the category of greenwashing. We're doing something without actually backing it up with a sustainable process.
But society's call for authentic sustainability is growing louder and louder, and with it, the demand for a more far-sighted attitude. Concentrating on what is ecologically meaningful in the long term, and not just what looks glamorous. Nowadays, the consumer encounters sustainability promises almost everywhere. But the claims are usually not meaningful. Again and again, you have to question what is real and what is just a gimmick. Michael Bernecker, managing director of the German Institute for Marketing, sees the origin of this confusing development in the increasing pressure on companies to identify themselves as sustainable. Because, as a result, another trend is growing in parallel.
Greenwashing is a phenomenon that has become established in recent years, meaning that when a company that perhaps doesn't have a complete sustainability strategy announces, for example, that yes, we have a product that no longer contains sugar, but still has 5,000 other products where the sugar content has even increased, then this is a typical topic where people say that labeling is being used.
This frog makes the leap to holistic sustainability as early as the mid-1980s. The colorful brand embodies environmental awareness that is also meant to be fun. For Chief Executive Officer Reinhard Schneider, this is a decisive factor in achieving long-term success with sustainability. For me, sustainability means a circular economy. If you don't want to talk about making sacrifices, because you can, of course, do a lot for sustainability, first of all, by mostly making sacrifices. The problem with making sacrifices is that 95% of the population are not very willing to make sacrifices, not least for understandable reasons. We all have very different concerns and problems. So we ask ourselves, how can you achieve sustainability while dispelling the notion that the choice is green or clean, stating that the medicine doesn't have to be bitter to work? For Reinhard Schneider, circular thinking begins with water, the raw material of his products. In 2011, he built his own water center with an in-house well. This makes it possible to be particularly careful with the natural resource. For us, it's important that we implement maximum circular economy in all aspects of sustainability without any negative effects for others. And when it comes to water, there's a lot you can do. It's of course also a significant component of the products, and returning the water at least as pristine as we take it from nature is of course a tall order, but it's possible. The water from the well flows through a high-tech reverse osmosis system. Around 12,000 liters per hour pass through a semi-permeable membrane that traps salts, limes, and other substances. This way, the water can be used several times. We effectively have a threefold use. After complete cleaning and sterilization, we have thermal utilization via our geothermal system, which is used for cooling in summer and heating the administration building in winter. Then we are finally able to fill our products with this water, which has already been used thermally, together with the active ingredients, in such a way that we only need an absolute minimum of preservatives, which is also very ecological. Moreover, even wastewater serves as a source of valuable raw materials. This is cleaned of residues when the pipes are flushed using a special process. There are always a number of substances that have to be filtered out of the water, which we can precipitate using a flocculant. And when this is then extracted to form a so-called filter cake, it can be reused to make these highly insulating building bricks. They can then be sold. In a single day, we end up with 6 to 8 tons of filter cake. Incidentally, the fact that this can be reused is not a given. This is only possible due to the special formulations. Because we use plant-based, ecologically safe raw materials, all the substances that we have in our wastewater streams can be reused. The construction industry also has very high requirements. It works wonderfully for us. The purified water from the reverse osmosis is used in the next step for mixing the products. The plant-based raw materials in the preparations have at least the same cleaning power as conventional products. This has been technologically feasible for a long time, as many product tests show. On the other hand, it's not just a matter of concentrating on biodegradability and plant origin, but of using plant-based raw materials that don't cause any problems because they are grown in monocultures somewhere in the tropics. And that's why we use local raw materials, like olive oils, local in the sense of being European, flax, linseed, and rapeseed. And that shows that we can minimize the transport routes until these products are ready for further processing in order to achieve holistic sustainability. In addition, the company has invested in so-called pig-capable pipelines. This can save additional water. This means that when you change a formulation, you don't need a lot of rinsing water to wash the old formulation out of the pipes. But you take a plug like this, a rubber plug, and you can push it through the pipe and remove the old formulation without leaving any residue, so that you use less water. Werner Mertz's environmental philosophy has been ingrained from the very beginning. Because as a family business, it wants to practice and pass on meaningful values for the long term. When it launched the eco-friendly Prof brand in 1986, it consciously accepted a possible loss of sales. If I'm in a competition where, for example, it's actually about strong, aggressive cleaning products, and chlorine is still used in cleaning products, and I can position myself as a counterpart, then that's first of all something different. This is also closely scrutinized in the various sectors, and there will also be many who say this won't work. However, if I then also pursue the sustainability trend properly, and whoever then actually implements it and also really addresses the topic holistically, they will also have advantages in the long term. Ultimately, the point is that you continue to make a consistent position tangible with examples. Then something grows that is the bottleneck of consumer decisions today, namely trust. Trust in the truthfulness of the implementation of promises. Without trust, it is difficult to achieve lasting success. And that is also confirmed to us that this is the right way to diversify into more and more areas as trust grows, so that our brand is one of the most broadly positioned umbrella brands in Germany, because we are no longer a brand of cleaning products, but a trusted brand of sustainability.
Weil wir keine Putzmittelmarke mehr sind, sondern wir sind eine Vertrauensmarke der Nachhaltigkeit.
The Prof brand owes this reputation above all to its packaging, because the ready-mixed recipes come in very special plastic bottles. These consist of 100% waste plastic, 50% of which comes from the yellow bag recycling scheme. This makes Werner Mertz a pioneer in particularly sustainable recycling. Unfortunately, the yellow bag is one of the most expensive sources of recyclate extraction in Germany at present, which need not be the case. This is partly due to the fact that the very worst way of dealing with plastic, namely the production of virgin plastic from fresh crude oil, is currently even tax subsidized in Germany, while the right way of dealing with it, that is, recycling, does not receive any subsidies. Almost 2 million tons of waste end up in the yellow bag every year. Almost 50% of it is burnt, and it doesn't need to be like this. At present, the waste goes through several separation processes. It is sorted according to type and size. Disruptive materials, such as films or cardboard boxes, are discarded. The recyclable waste plastic is then sent to the recycler. Here it is first shredded, then washed and processed into so-called flakes. They look uniform, but they are not flawless. The problem with this, the plastic cannot return to the actual cycle as transparent material, but is downcycled into darker material. What many people still don't really understand is that if plastic were handled properly, it could be the perfect recycling material, because this material can be reshaped with relatively little energy and reused again and again due to its low melting point. But you have to stick to rules so that recycling really works at a high level. Most companies don't do that because it's more expensive at first.
Und das machen halt viele nicht, weil es erstmal teurer ist.
Werner Mertz has been using high-level recycling since 2011. First, as a state-of-the-art laser technology that filters out even the finest unwanted materials. This results in transparent, recyclable waste plastic. By now, the company has even gone one step further. Now the infrared technologies have caught up, and if you concentrate on what is then technically feasible, you get amazingly good results that have a degree of purity that is also surprising for many consumers. In the next step, the recyclate from the yellow bag is combined as granulate with plastic from deposit bottles and blown into preforms by a machine. Reinhard Schneider is currently still paying extra for infrared technology, but he hopes that prices will fall as other companies also use this technology. And then it will gain mass acceptance, and then we would have a giant leap in the recycling of the material. And the question was always at the end, yes, but what does it cost? And then we said, well, at the beginning it costs more, of course, but it's a new technology, and with the new technologies with small volumes, they are always more expensive in terms of the number of units until they really get going. And then we said, but if you join in, you competitors, we end up with a large volume. Then that changes. Then at some point the unit cost will no longer be more expensive, and then it will also be economically attractive. And then they said, okay, then come back when it's time, and we said, well, that's the chicken and the egg. It takes someone to make it simple, and unfortunately, we are still at this point. This could also be solved by political signals that have so far completely failed to materialize. Moreover, holistic sustainability is difficult to recognize for the consumer, because the official criteria for companies are not very ambitious. And many eco-labels and seemingly environmentally friendly packaging can deliberately mislead the consumer. With packaging, for example, it's very interesting that we often pay attention to the fact that it looks like paper, like recycled paper. And then perhaps the packet of pasta is bought because it supposedly has better packaging. But then it is perhaps a composite material that cannot be recycled, as well as pure plastic packaging, which can be used much more efficiently in recycling. This means that there are certain things where we customers fall for such signals and believe that this is now sustainable, but perhaps a different approach or a different type of packaging is actually much more sustainable. Like the award-winning stand-up pouch, a new packaging achievement from Werner Mertz. This is made of 100% recyclable material and saves 70% plastic compared to a bottle. It is not made of the usual plastic composites, but of a mono-material. This means that the printed layer, this thin layer, can be removed relatively easily, so that all that remains is a clear bag that does not turn gray during recycling. And the 15% by weight of the printed film can also be recycled in the gray fraction. Werner Mertz has already received numerous awards for its innovations, including the renowned Sustainability Prize, Germany's most sustainable brand. But the eco-pioneer is not resting on its laurels. That means that when you are positioned in this way, you have to keep at it. And then a sustainability issue suddenly becomes a very big issue and permeates the entire company. And at some point it also becomes a socially relevant factor. In order to further expand this position, Reinhard Schneider is in close exchange with Pamela Fandl. She helps to drive sustainable development. As proof, Werner Mertz is validated annually by EMAS, the most demanding environmental management system in the world. We have to set new targets for environmental management and energy management every year. We have to publish these targets. We have an external auditor who comes every year and puts us through our paces. He asks each employee what they are doing for the environment. And the whole thing is then actually put into a statement, which is then published and also checked legally. This has also led to the offer for employees to lease e-vehicles. This is not only about providing ecological alternatives to the car, including bicycles, but also about supporting their maintenance. A young project is the Mobile Bicycle Workshop. The special thing about it, the impulses and ideas come from the staff themselves. There's actually a system for this. It's called idea management, and every employee can also contribute ideas that don't come from their own department, and in this way develop the company further. Whether that's process developments or something to do with occupational safety or sustainability like this, every employee has the opportunity to participate and help the company move forward. Werner Mertz has made it its business to practice ecological awareness, economic foresight, and social responsibility each and every day. For the future, Reinhard Schneider hopes that more companies will follow his example. There needs to be a realization that it can be worthwhile to invest consistently in sustainability in the long term, even if it is a bit demanding to communicate that the technologies that make sense in the long term are not always the most glamorous.
Technologien nicht immer die verführerischsten sind.
The right political framework could help here, so that the technologies that work well do not continue to be the most expensive ones. That could be achieved. It would also help to have a certain resistance to short-term demands on the stock markets to keep shareholder value high. And not just within 2 years, but if you say that, okay, if it is within 5 to 10 years, then that is also attractive. I still see great mismanagement on the international financial markets. But the change in values continues to prevail, because those who only pay attention to labeling without building a holistic strategy have no future. Sustainability will no longer be possible to define away. So anyone who thinks this doesn't affect me is going to have a problem. And if companies are not socially responsible, not ecologically sensible and sustainable in the long term, they will disappear from the markets. Recognizing the needs of current and future generations while taking responsibility. Ultimately, it is those who breathe life into sustainability phrases who will survive.